The recording has started, Mataji.
Sure. Throughout Vedic history, we may have heard of the 5 most exalted chaste women, Pativrata Nari, and Draupadi figures in one of them. So there's actually a shloka, and to remember these 5 exalted women, and it is said every morning if we recite the shloka, just by remembering their pure characters and their names is enough to purify us, and which may also help us to follow our path of Stri Dharma. Ahalya Draupadi Tara Tara Mandodari Tatha Panchakam Nasmare Nityam Mahapataka Nashanam. So there are 5 women, and of course there's a little bit of a I can say disagreement among the scholars. The first version, the 5 most chaste women are said to be Ahalya, the wife of Gautama Rishi, then Draupadi, then Tara, who is the wife of Vali, and also Tara, who is also, this is the same name, but she's the wife of Brihaspati, or Guru, Jupiter. So, and then finally it is Mandodari, Ravana's chief queen. Yet there is another version that says Ahalya, Draupadi, Sita, of course, Sita Mata, Lord Ramachandra's wife, and Tara. This Tara is Vali's wife from Ramayana. Mandodari, again, Ravana's wife from Ramayana. So these are the 5 women. But anyway, Draupadi is common to both. So unquestionably, she is one of the most chaste women. So let us try to see what, okay, I think the screen sharing is stopped for some reason. Let me do this. Whenever we are discussing about the pastimes of the Supreme Lord and his devotees, pure devotees like Draupadi, they're pretty mysterious and not easy to understand because they're not ordinary like us. They're transcendental or spiritual in nature. And Kṛṣṇa says this in the Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. So who doesn't know about Lord Kṛṣṇa and his leelas? At least the stories, popular stories, so well known. Nowadays, even in the Western world too, Lord Kṛṣṇa is well known. What to speak of among Indians? We pretty much all of us know most of the stories. And Kṛṣṇa is saying here, whoever knows about my leelas, my appearance and activities, that's enough. They become eligible and they get eventually liberated and they go back to the spiritual world. Now, is that so simplistic? If we take a deeper look at it, Kṛṣṇa is actually using the word tattvataha. One has to know his leelas, activities, all that, but one has to know it in truth. It is not so easy to understand all these leelas. And he also says that we have to understand these leelas as transcendental. We have to understand their spiritual nature. And when we understand them in truth, then we become eligible to go back to the spiritual world. So how do we do that? So there is a famous, there's this example that comes to my mind given by His Holiness Gaur Govind Maharaj. He would usually quote this example wherein, in the ocean, if you just stick to the surface, you get all these weeds and plankton and all sorts of rubbish. you don't really get anything much valuable. Okay, there's a power cut here. I'm so sorry. I'll get a light. Just give me a minute. Sorry about that. Because of heavy rains, there is power cut
Kṛṣṇa,
here.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, you can share the slides slightly bigger.
Yeah, I tried that. The thing is, I did the PowerPoint presentation in the presentation mode, but I think because of the bandwidth, it stopped sharing. It got frozen. The screen got frozen.
Okay,
That's why I went back to the slide mode.
Okay, I understood. Perhaps you can add the zoom down there slightly bigger, I think, if it is possible.
Okay, let me try.
Okay, no, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, the example given here is, if we go deeper into the ocean waters, we get jewels all the way at the depth of the ocean. That is where we find the jewels. So when we read scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and Mahabharata, this should be our approach. Even while reading Srila Prabhupada's purports, one may skip through it superficially. It is all good. It is all transcendental. We'll definitely get benefited, but we get the most benefit. We get the most coveted jewels by going really deep into it and understanding this transcendental subject matter. This also, in this case, Draupadi Devi is also, she is one of the spiritual pure devotee associates of the Supreme Lord, and her activities, they're all designed by the Lord's internal potency. In the sense, everything happens, they're all fully in cooperation with the Lord's will, and everything happens according to the Lord's will. And that's why to look deeper into this tattva also helps us understand, or do away with any of the misconceptions. All right. So these are the 5 most chaste women, and to understand such confidential secrets also requires some qualification. And as far as I am concerned, the speaker is concerned, it is said in the Bhagavatam, yathadhitam yathavati. As far as I have heard, I have learned, as far as I can realize it. And even for the hearers too, 3 qualifications that give us the eligibility is that, 1, we should ourselves be practicing some sadhana. We should be on the path of Dharma. Secondly, our senses should be controlled, at least to some extent. Of course, we don't have to be a Goswami, but at least to some extent, there has to be some sense control in our lifestyle. And we should have absolute faith in Shastra, the words of the Shastra. Whatever Shastra says, we have to take it as truth, absolute truth. Then these kind of transcendental subject matters will become more clear to us. By the mercy of Draupadi Devi and all our Acharyas and the Supreme Lord, let us try to get the truth out of this. So, as I said earlier, she's one of the most exalted personalities of the Mahabharata, yet she's one of the most misunderstood. But then, from her very appearance. How did she appear? It was not ordinary. She appeared right out of the sacrificial altar, Yagna. And what does this signify? Even by common knowledge, we all know that when something goes through fire, it is purified. Because fire by its own nature is purifying. And what to speak of the fire, the sacred fire of the Homakunda? So what to speak of a personality who is born, who emerges right out of the sacrificial fire? It is needless to say, she was immaculately pure, beyond any question or doubt. And that is why the Leela was so arranged that, to proclaim to the world that no doubt should be raised about her purity. And there are many other indications here too. Draupadi, she's actually a combination of 5 personalities. 5 Devis or demigoddesses combine to form one personality called Draupadi. But the most prominent of these 5 Devis is Bharati Devi. Bharati Devi, she is very, very elevated. She is the wife of Vayu, or the god of air, especially the Mukhya Prana. That means the life air. The Devata who is the deity for life air is Vayu. He came as Madhvacharya, and he actually also came as Bhima, right? So, this Devi, she is actually the deity for Vedic knowledge. And our knowledge is considered the most pure. And Kṛṣṇa says this in the Bhagavad Gita, Nahi gnanena sadrisham pavitram. It's most purifying. When knowledge arises in our heart by the mercy of the Lord, then we are purified of all our sins. And what to speak of the deity, guardian deity of such Vedic knowledge. So that is why, because knowledge is compared, it is considered as an ornament. She came out of the fire fully ornamented. And by performing our dharma, our duties nicely, and by performing noble tasks, everything as a sacrifice to the Lord, we will be blessed with knowledge. So for example, for women, Stri Dharma, that is our dharma. When we serve our husbands nicely, we are empowered with spiritual knowledge. So everybody, when they stick to their dharma, they will be empowered with knowledge. So Draupadi, signifies that, because this yagna was done, that is signifying a noble task. And then she's coming out. She's the personality of knowledge. So this shows that by following dharma, it will never go waste. We will be benefited in all levels, especially at a spiritual level. So what about the other Devis then? So the other Devis were the wives of the other Devatas who came as Pandavas. So this is the crux or the secret. So let us see now. Pandavas, who were the Pandavas? They were the sons of the Devatas, or Yudhishthira Maharaj was the son, or he was the incarnation, you can say, of Yama Dharmaraja. So his wife, Shamala Devi, was also present within the personality of Draupadi. Then, secondly, Bhima's wife, Bharati, was anyway there. She was the most prominent here. And then Arjuna was the son of Indra. And Arjuna's wife, Indra's wife is Shachi. So the Shachi Devi was also present in Draupadi's personality. And finally, Nakula and Sahadeva were the sons of Ashwini Devatas, Ashwini Kumaras. So the wife of Ashwini Kumaras, Usha Devi, is also present in the personality of Draupadi. So this explains that all these women, they were actually present in that one person to serve their own husbands. Even though to the outside world, it seemed like it was one lady, but there was deeper tattva behind this. And now, Draupadi has so many beautiful names. She was also known as Kṛṣṇa because she was the best among women. And also she had darkish complexion. And she was always on the highest platform of bliss because she was full of knowledge. And because she was Drupada Maharaja's daughter, she was known as Draupadi. Drupada was also known as Yagnasena, so she was known as Yagnaseni. And Drupada Maharaja, her father, was the king of Panchala Desha. So she was known as Panchali. Now, why was this Yagna performed? Most of you probably know that Maharaja Drupada, because of his enmity or rivalry with Dronacharya in Mahabharata, he desired to have a son who can kill Dronacharya in a battle. So he desired a son. At the same time, he also desired a daughter in order to give her in marriage to Arjuna. Because he was so impressed with Arjuna that he desired to have some relationship with him. And he thought, oh, let me get a daughter who can marry him. And some of her other wonderful qualities of Draupadi was that when she was born out of the Yagna Kunda, she was not born as a baby or anything. She was born as a youth because she could be readily married to Arjuna. That is one thing. And her youth was not the one that was going to be faded. It was Ajara. She was Ajara, that one who would never grow old. So she was ever youthful. And she was actually one of the most beautiful women in all the three worlds. And this beauty was not just physical beauty, like in today's day and age. She was actually the finest of all the feminine beings. That's what it is said. Normally, Parvati Devi is supposed to be the most beautiful in all the three worlds, but actually, Shastras and Acharyas reveal that her position, this Draupadi or Bharati Devi's position, is higher than Parvati Mata. So she was more beautiful. And why did these 4 or 5 women combine in one personality? So the answer to that question is also given by our Acharyas. It is taken from several Puranas. The 4 Devis, namely Parvati is also included actually. Parvati is also one of the personalities included in Draupadi. So one is Parvati, another is Indra's wife Shachi Devi, then Shyamala, who is Dharmaraja's wife, then Usha Devi, Ashwini Kumara's wife. So these 4 people, once they were in some kind of a, you can say, funny mood, and when in an assembly of Lord Brahma, they tried to play a prank or of some sorts. They had combined into one personality, and anyway, because of their improper behavior, they got cursed by Lord Brahma to be born as humans and to also come in contact with men other than their own husbands. So this became a sort of a problem for them, a big problem, in fact, because these are all Devis. They're all very chaste. There is no question of any separation with their husbands. So they were very worried, how is this going to work out? So they approached Bharati Devi, who's superior to all of them, and they prayed so that they may take shelter and she may also come along with them and be born as human to enact all these leelas. Now, the reason for this is because Bharati Devi's husband is Vayu, and his position is higher than all these other husbands of these Devis. So for them, they felt he's like our father. So even if father touches the daughter, it's okay. So there was nothing wrong with that. But we will see, even then, they all really maintained their chastity. So because of her exceptional qualifications, her father, Draupadi's father, arranged Swayamvara. That means she could choose her own husband. Vara means groom. And this would happen back in the day. Some interesting points to be noted here is Srila Prabhupada talks about this. It was not very common, but it was not unheard of either. Swayamvara was usually only for princesses because they lived a life of extraordinary opulence and grandeur and all that. Plus, because most of them were exceptionally qualified, they had that privilege. They were entitled to choose their husbands. And also because they were qualified, they could actually make the right decision. It's not like in today's day and age wherein women freely go around, they think they can choose their husbands, but it's a very, very difficult task. But even in this scenario, even in Swayamvara, it was not like they could choose just about anybody. It was pretty much guided within the parameters set by their father and their elders. Especially in this case, we may all know the competition was so tough that Drupada knew only Arjuna could win the competition. And that was the whole idea. So only the princesses from a certain acceptable social background, you can say, and with a certain qualifications were even allowed to enter, for one. And then there would usually be a sort of a competition, a match, which would decide who would be the winner and who would be eligible to win the hand of the girl. So it was pretty safe. But the girl ultimately had the privilege to take the call. So in this case, even though Kṛṣṇa came to actually take part, so many people again misunderstood Draupadi here, because she did not allow Kṛṣṇa to take part. This was, of course, by the very nature of this whole event. It was arranged so that Arjuna can come win her hand, for one thing. And it was very much approved by the Supreme Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa. He was also right there. And it was not wrong on Draupadi's part to do that. Why? Because it was her Swayamvara. She had the right to reject anybody she didn't want to. So that is one thing. And finally, so it so happened that Arjuna won the contest and won her hand. So this way, everything was still guided by elders and people who are more experienced in life. That is something we need to note, especially in today's day and age. Younger generation girls, because of the influence of society, always have a tendency to believe that, oh, I have to choose my own husband, or I know better than my parents. But the problem with this is someone who may be appealing right now, but in the long course of life, so many things change. That's why back in the day, even if it was not for Swayamvara, marriages were very scientifically arranged, not just in India, mostly throughout all traditional cultures. Their horoscopes were taken into consideration, and so many things were taken into consideration to see how they are compatible, not just as some two persons, but even as families and as their whole the karmic baggage, whatever they carry for the whole life, because that was going to be intertwined for the rest of their lives. So now, after the Swayamvara happened, now Pandavas, nobody actually knew that they were Pandavas because they had disguised themselves as Brahmanas, because at that time they were actually hiding in the forest, because just previously the Kauravas had tried to kill them in the house of lac. So they took her to their humble cottage where Mother Kunti was waiting, and because they were acting as Brahmanas, every day they would go begging alms, and this day too they came back to their mother and they announced that, "Oh mother, today we've got a special gift or alms, we have got something special." Just like usual, Mother Kunti, as you know, you all may have heard, she didn't, with no consideration, she immediately responded, "Okay, then why don't you share it amongst yourselves?" As was the case in everyday routine. That's what they would do. And everybody, it was shocked. She's a woman and she's already supposed to be married to Arjuna. How can she be shared among the five of us? So because it was Kunti Devi, not an ordinary person, was speaking this, so after due consideration, and even Vyasadeva came, and they finally revealed Draupadi's personality, of how this combined personality, because of Brahma's curse, so these five Devis, except for Bharati Devi, the other Devis, they had to take human birth for 4 times. And then in one of the births, they prayed to Lord Shiva as one person. They prayed to Lord Shiva for a husband with exceptional qualities. So Lord Shiva, he blessed them 5 times. He blessed that girl 5 times. And that's why they had to get 5 husbands. But it was, so this is all external consideration, but internally they were 5 Devis. So now, here, one question may arise. The 4 Devis had their husbands in the Pandavas, but only Parvati Devi, her husband, Lord Shiva, was not among them. Then how would she serve them? Lord Shiva, Rudra Deva, he appeared, it is said that he partially appeared as Ashwathama. But he had no connection here. He was on the enemy camp. So how would she deal with all this? So in order to maintain her chastity, what was the arrangement was that only during eating and bathing pastimes, Parvati Devi would be present in Draupadi's personality. Whenever there were times of intimacy with the husbands, Parvati Devi wouldn't be there. She wouldn't be present. So that way, there was no contamination here for any of the Devis. And it was, and of course, these are all superhuman leelas. It is beyond our actually imagination. So even though there were these 5 Devis, especially during the intimate times, there were 4 Devis, but still one may ask, how is it? But they are still dealing with the other husbands. But because they were all demigods, they had special powers. So each one of those Pandavas would see only, or each one of those Devas in Pandavas would actually be seeing only their respective wives in the personality of Draupadi. And so also for these wives, these devis, they would be serving or dealing with only their husbands. But there is always hierarchy. There is hierarchy everywhere. It is not that everybody is equal, like in today's so-called socio-culture, especially coming from the communist countries. There has to be a leader and there has to be a hierarchy. Even here, even among devatas, even among these 5 Pandavas, the devata who is on a higher status, they could see the lower devis and their own wife. Someone who is on the lower status could only see their wife, they could not see the higher devatas. That means, for example, so Vayu Deva, he was the highest, so he could see the other devis along with his wife. So doesn't that mean there is that contamination? No, the answer to the question is, again, like I said, for him, he would consider the others because they are lower. For him, they are like his daughters. So that is why they all approached Bharti Devi, who was the wife of Vayu Deva, so that even if they were by mistake touched by Vayu, he would be like their own father. So there would be no problem with their chastity. So finally, we all know about the infamous episode of gambling.
Hare Krishna Mataji, sorry, beg your pardon. We can't see the writing up there.
You can't see the slide, is it?
I can see the slide, but the writing can't be seen.
Oh, okay. Can you see now? Okay.
No.
Let me stop and share it again. Sometimes it gets frozen. Is it clear now?
Yes. Can you zoom out a little bit? I still can't see the writing.
Oh,
okay.
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 All right. So Draupadi, because she was a pure devotee, it was not like when this attempt to disrobe her happened in the vicious assembly of gambling. It was not that it was only during that time she actually surrendered, but pure devotees like her, they're always surrendered to the Lord. There is never a moment that they are not conscious of the Supreme Lord or they don't remember him. But now, especially, she was surrendered so much more when that happened. It is just to show to the world. So now, so we all know that, Duḥśāsana, when she started disrobing her, Mother Draupadi intensely called out to the Supreme Lord immediately. It is not that she thought someone else can save me, and no, she didn't even waste time for that. She knew is only the Supreme Lord who can actually save her. But then there is another matter of tattva or truth that needs to be understood here. We've heard of so many Pativrata Nari stories, in the Puranas. Let me just give a quick example. There was once a queen. She was supposedly so chaste that some brahmachari or a young boy was asked to get her blessings for some reason. And then when he went to take blessings from her in her place, he couldn't see her. And then he came back to his guru. He recounted that, and then they figured out that particular day there was some very slight discrepancy in his duties of dharma, maybe in his sandhya vandana or in his chanting or whatever, or slight contamination. Just because of that, he couldn't even get darshan of that Nari. chaste wife. So this was the case of an ordinary human wife. Now, what to speak of Draupadi? She's one of the most exalted demigoddesses, almost on the level of Saraswati, maybe a little less than her. And even Prabhupada, right? She's actually, she's one of the forms of Lakshmi Devi too, of heaven, you can say. So, what to speak of disrobing her? Duḥśāsana couldn't even see her or touch her. Then how did this whole disrobing incident happen? Just like in Mother Sita's case, Ravana came, he could only take Maya Sita with him. And he thought he got the real Sita, just to fool the whole world. Similarly, Draupadi also had such amazing powers because of her chastity, her dharma, her bhakti, and of course being such an exalted demigoddess herself, that her representative form, actually, the Acharyas say, went there. So this is all really, it is all very, very secret. Not many people know about all this. But in any case, she was not, her glory was not to be tainted. So that is why Draupadi was so powerful that she could have created her own sari or not let this whole incident even happen. But being the pure devotees of the Lord, Draupadi and all the Pandavas, they were always aligned to the will of the Lord, and they knew the Lord wanted all this to happen, because there was a bigger event that was going to happen. So very faithfully, they just tolerated everything, just so these Kauravas' sin could be saturated and they would be eventually destroyed. So when this Duḥśāsana kept pulling her sari after at some point, because of her extreme prayer with mood of surrender, the Supreme Lord blessed her with divine cloth, divine sari, which kept coming and flowing, and it was inexhaustible. So much that Duḥśāsana, he kept pulling and pulling, and it became like a mountainous heap, Acharyas say, and such a huge heap, and he got so exhausted that he eventually had to give up. And this sari, it was obviously everybody could make out it was divine. It was so fine in its fabric, and it was effulgent. It was out of the ordinary. So already Duḥśāsana and Duryodhana was eyeing this, and he asked Duḥśāsana to collect this extraordinary fabric and take its possession. So there is an Acharya in South India. He's famous to have written so many devotional songs in the Madhva line, Sri Purandara Dasa. In one of his songs, he actually spills out the secret. He says, when Duḥśāsana tried to take possession of this fabric, Draupadi immediately, just by looking at it, burnt it all to ashes. So such was her power, because they were no way eligible to even touch the fabric, what to speak of taking it in their possession. So this shows that she could have as well protected herself and done or even destroyed the Kauravas, but it was just to uphold the glory of the Supreme Lord and to show that how the Supreme Lord never fails to protect his surrendered devotees. So in this note, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has written so many songs, glorifying or eulogizing this Sharanagati, the process of surrender. And he quotes from Vaishnava Tantra, surrender doesn't necessarily mean only some kind of a vague sentiment towards the Lord, but it actually means tangible, things that we can do. There are 6 limbs of surrender. Anukulyasya sankalpam pratikulya vivarjanam goptrutve varanam tatha rakshishyati iti vishvaso goptrutve varanam tatha atmanikshepa karpanye shadvidha sharanagatihi. So Draupadi Devi exemplified this sharanagati, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur and others, they have explained what does this mean. Accepting everything and anything which is favorable to our Krishna Bhakti, and rejecting whatever is not favorable to Krishna Bhakti. These are the 2 items. Then to be always confident that the Supreme Lord will protect us, to have that faith in him, and putting our faith only in him, no one else. And then embracing him as a true only guardian, and offering oneself fully to the Supreme Lord. And finally, karpanya means to realize how one is so insignificant, to realize one's lamentable lowliness. That's what is the term used. So that means if we are so insignificant, and if we understand how insignificant we are, it becomes much more easier to get the Lord's mercy. So the Supreme Lord gives us assurance over and over again about this. And one shloka comes to my mind from Ramayana. It's very famous, wherein Vibhishana, even though he was coming from the enemy camp, when everyone else was doubting his credibility, but Lord Rama, he immediately said, even once, if anyone sincerely tries to surrender to me, it was my vow to protect them. Sakrideva prapanno yas tavasmiti chayachate abhayam sarvada tasmai dadamyetat vratam mama. Even Bhagavad Gita also, Kṛṣṇa says that Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. My devotee will never be vanquished. So he's always there to protect us. Draupadi Devi teaches by her example. And she is the best among devotees, actually. Even in the Mahabharata, so most of this is actually taken from Madhvacharya's commentary. It is called as Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnaya. So he reveals so many of these secrets, and he says, even among many of these devotees, some like Draupadi, they so strictly followed the Bhagavata Dharma, Shuddha Bhagavata Dharma, that, even after all this disaster happened, Vidura keeps telling Dhritarashtra, you better, please, Draupadi, do something immediately. Otherwise, your sons will be destroyed right here by Bhima's blow. And so, in order to appease her, he asks Draupadi to, ask some boon from him. But as a true devotee, pure devotee, she never asks anything for herself. And even and for a woman, it is said a woman can take boons or blessings only either from the Supreme Lord, Hari, or her husband. So Dhritarashtra was neither of them, and she was anyway not going to ask anything for herself, but she just asked for the protection of her husbands, as in whatever was lost in the gamble match, she just asked that to be given back, and the release of her husbands. This was not even a boon. So even from her Pativrata Dharma and Bhagavata Dharma, she completely adhered to it, and she won laurels for it. And it is also said that for one who is following Bhagavata Dharma, anyway, they're not interested in asking boons. They're also never inclined to cursing anybody. Even though all this happened, how much mishaps she went through, but Draupadi never cursed anybody. And but she vowed that Duryodhana and others be killed. But if she were to have cursed, it could have been much worse, and there could have been such calamities much more. So there are plenty of illustrations that, women, chaste women, they become powerful by following their Stri Dharma. So anybody who follows their Dharma, they are empowered by the Supreme Lord. And just by following, there are so many examples, just by following their Stri Dharma, women were able to give curse, the women were able to bless back in the day. But of course, we don't see such examples in today's day and age, so people become very skeptical. But the point to be noted here is that this is Kali Yuga. Definitely, we may not be in that position to practice ourselves so purely, but one should not be disappointed at the same token. We should try to follow in their footsteps, if not imitate. But by following Dharma, both our current life and next life, so Preya and Shreya, we will eternally be benefited, no doubt. Even our day-to-day life, it'll be more peaceful. By following the Lord's instructions, it'll never go waste. She was, of course, the emblem of chastity. She was the husband. She was the wife of 5 husbands. So people immediately think, oh, how can she be chaste? Of course, we discussed so far how her chastity was never questionable. At the same time, to even serve and please one husband, it is not easy, especially in today's day and age, wherein women are not sufficiently trained from the beginning of our lives. So it may become a little more challenging, but by constant practice, by constant prayers, by following the examples of such women, we can also try to learn. So the 4 qualities of a chaste woman is described as to render service to the husband, to be always favorably disposed towards the husband, to be equally well disposed to husband's relatives and friends, and to follow the vows of the husband. So Draupadi did all of this. And even though all this mishap happened, because her husbands didn't even come for her protection during the gambling match, but still, she very faithfully followed them throughout their years of exile and served them to perfection. And she was so expert in serving the husband that, even, devotees like even Satyabhama supposed to have taken lessons from her. And because she had 5 husbands, and to adjust and serve according to the mentality of each husband, and to expertly, deliver her duties is not easy. And it's definitely for 5 husbands, it's just only extraordinary woman can do that, like Draupadi. So, and Srila Prabhupada also says in this regard about how a peaceful householder life can be possible when a woman follows in the vow of her husband. So even if there is some disagreement, women can always, she can voice her opinion in a not so offensive manner, that's fine. But ultimately, the decision should be taken by the husband, and she should go with it. So just like one devotee, I remember was saying, Srila Prabhupada's disciple, had mentioned once how a wife is like a minister and husband is like the king. So there are so many ministers we can see. Minister's job is to give suggestions to the husband, to the king, but it is up to the king whether he'll consider it or not. If he considers, it's well and good. Otherwise, the minister has to, he can't revolt about it. So this is how, family life can be more peaceful when even in terms of disagreements. And Prabhupada also, this is all very elaborately discussed in the 7th canto actually. where Narada Muni explains the duties of chaste women to Yudhishthira Maharaj. A chaste woman must dress nicely and decorate herself with golden ornaments, everything for the pleasure of the husband. And of course, for people, for women of modern age, because we don't have that background, we have to try to inculcate as much as possible, and not be disappointed. These things, we all have very bad, wrong conditionings coming from a modern age, the influence of the modern age, media and whatnot. But as far as possible, as much as possible, we have to try to inculcate slowly and gradually, how much ever we can, to the best of our abilities. And the Supreme Lord is there according to our conditioning, according to our karma, according to, I mean, everybody may face different challenges, but ultimately we have to try our best. And then a chaste woman should never be greedy, but she should always be satisfied in all circumstances. So each one of this, even though they were living in the forest, Draupadi Devi would always serve the husbands first, and then only she would honor prasadam herself. So that is the etiquette. And by following one's three dharma, it will not only bring about matrimonial and harmony in an individual level, but even social harmony too. There will be good progeny and good generation will come about. And so there is a lot to speak on this topic. Just to summarize quickly, a woman's role is very similar to that of a disciple, and a husband is like a guru to the wife. Even if one may not have that kind of a relationship, but we should know that by serving the husband, we get the same benefit as serving one's guru, because previously women were not, taking guidance directly from a guru and all that. So that has always been the case. So they would serve the husband and they would be spiritually and materially benefited. So moving on to more glorious qualities of Draupadi Devi, her quality of forgiveness was much exalted. We have seen this, actually. There are many instances when Ashwathama beheads all her 5 sons during the Kurukshetra war. Arjuna captures him and brings him. When she realizes it is Ashwathama, Dronacharya's son, she pleads not to kill him, because she says, because she's a mother, she knows the pain of another mother. So she says, let his mother not cry and be aggrieved like me. So such was her, and it was everything was aligned with dharma. So one of the qualities of chaste wife is also she should be knowledgeable about dharma, because first of all, to follow dharma, we have to know. Otherwise, how can we follow? So anyway, so Yudhishthira Maharaj himself, after listening to all the justification that she gives, because one, he is the son of our guru, who has given us so much. Secondly, he comes from a Brahmana family, and he represents his father, who was a great soul. By killing him, it will be like insult to his own father. And finally, his mother should not be widowed again, because wife is always a son is supposedly a representative of the father. So when the husband dies, even though he's dead, if he's survived by his son, the wife is still not considered really a widow, because the husband is there in the form of the son to take care of her. That way she is well protected. So next, going on to the final discussion, how she exemplified Bhagavata Dharma. So our husband is definitely, he is the representative of the Lord, our guru in the present life. At least to whatever extent we can serve him, We have to do that. And how much ever guidance we can get from our husbands spiritually, it's not necessary that all husbands may guide us spiritually, but still, as a duty, the wife has to serve. But at the end of life, nobody is there to help us cross this ocean of material existence, not even the husband. So then what happens to the wife? So here, what happened to Draupadi was, Prabhupada gives the example that, until an airplane takes off, there is all the monitoring going on, and even our life, until we take off, we have our husband, we have our gurus, our spiritual master, our relatives, everybody supporting us or helping us, giving us instructions. But when it is time to leave, we are on our own. We can only depend on the Supreme Lord, our eternal husband. So at the time when Lord Kṛṣṇa went back to his abode, all the Pandavas, one after other, in the Srimad Bhagavatam it is said, one after other, they left home and hearth, and individually they meditated, and they completely absorbed themselves in samadhi of the Supreme Lord, and they went back in self-same bodies. They went back to the Supreme abode of the Lord. And Draupadi, on seeing her husbands, 5 most powerful husbands, nobody even actually bothered to take her along with them, because all these ties are there only as long as the body lasts. After that, it is only our spiritual relationship with the Supreme Lord. So because she was so well trained spiritually too, she sets such a brilliant example that she also, and along with Subhadra Devi, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions this, that she also completely gives up any sorts of attachments whatsoever, and enters into the Lord's Samadhi, and goes back to the Supreme abode, in her self-same body. So all this while, we have been talking about Draupadi's position as Devi and demigoddess and all that. So there is a very popular question that arises here. According to Mahabharata, it is said that Pandavas ascended to the heaven, and so did Draupadi. According to Bhagavatam, it is said they all went back to the spiritual world. So how can we reconcile this apparent contradiction? And the way we could reconcile is, one of our Gaudiya Acharyas called Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan Thakur, he says, so the personality of Draupadi, we already know there were 5 Devis combined, right? Yet there was another personality who is the eternal associate of the Lord. So in all Pandavas, this was the case. There was a Devata who had their presence. Along with that Devata, there was the eternal associate of the Lord. They all come along with when Supreme Lord Kṛṣṇa incarnates. So the Devata portion of these Pandavas and Draupadi, they went to the heaven, their respective abodes, and the eternal associate portion, they went back to the spiritual world. So this is how we can nicely understand the Tattva Vichara by the help of our dear respectful Acharyas. So I would like to end here this talk. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. Thank you so much for being so patient and listening to the full class. I hope it helped.
Thank you, Mataji. Dear Matajis, we are opening the question and answer session now. So for those who would like to interact with Shama Mataji, please use the raise hand option button provided in Zoom. We will allow you to unmute yourselves. For those who do not know how to use the raise hand option, there will be an instruction given in the chat box. You can find the instruction in the chat box.
Okay, I see one hand raised. Lakshmi Mataji, please go ahead.
Yes, Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Kindly explain to me how I should be with my husband who is not a devotee and he has no belief in Krishna at all. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you for the question, Mataji. Yes, whatever be our situation, we need to be, we have to stick to our dharma. The wife has to always serve the husband nicely, be favorably disposed to him, and by praying for him, and Supreme Lord will hopefully, surely be merciful actually, but we don't know his plans. As long as your husband, he doesn't obstruct you from doing your devotional service. Sometimes the husbands may even obstruct, but we should always find ways. Wives should always find ways. The situation is always not always favorable for everybody, because this is anyway this is material world. Even for devotees, even with devotee husbands, there could be so many obstacles, so many difficulties. In fact, one incident comes to my mind. Srila Prabhupada, his own sister came to him once with such a great problem. Her husband, he was not a follower of dharma of any sorts. He would break all regulative principles. He would even bring other women. He would make her cook meat and so many things. And she asked him, what should I do? Should I leave him or should I stick to him? Should I continue to serve him? Srila Prabhupada said, just do whatever he says and keep praying to Radha and Krishna. Just keep praying. And a day came in her life when the husband realized what he was doing was very, very unfair. And then he completely changed and he became a pure devotee. And he understood how his wife so faithfully served him all through. So she finally realize the fruits of her pious karma and her bhakti. But one thing we have to note is, in today's day and age, we always, people in Kali Yuga anyway, they're very impatient. I mean, I'm not talking about you, but generally we all are. We want instant results. We want things to happen overnight, but it will not happen. And this is taught in Vedic culture over and over again. We need to try to tolerate, but slowly over time, by blessings of devotees and association. So things will change. Even if it doesn't, things will pan out at least more favorable to you. Kṛṣṇa is there to help us. So we should take it. Everything actually Kunti Devi takes, as she says, actually, everything is taken as a blessing. Even obstacles help us grow spiritually. So keep praying, and a day will come when we will come out of our problems and be more situated well in our bhakti. I hope I answered your question.
Any more questions to Shama Mataji?
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. And I have one more thing to clarify, Mataji.
Okay.
Because since we are not in good terms, Mataji, he even left the house, and I am also not really interested to serve him. And actually, since he don't believe in Krishna consciousness, right? Anyway, he don't obstruct me, yeah, as you said just now, but he just let me go on my own way. Being a devotee myself and my children for many years, But anyway, even though he don't obstruct us, but we are just keeping away from ourselves. Is that a very wrong thing to do, Mataji?
See, the very fact that he's letting you do bhakti itself is very good. So sometimes we need to take the extra step in order to acknowledge the good qualities of our husband. It is said that, whenever we are upset with our husband, we should try to think of his good qualities. And it is really good. And I have seen in many cases where people don't even let their wives practice. So at least he's allowing you to do, and he's also going to get sukruti because of that. He will also get the Lord's blessings. And yes, it is the duty of the wife to serve the husband, and under any circumstance. Please don't give it up. Because Srila Prabhupada emphatically says this, for a woman, even for her spiritual progress, serving her husband is a must. There may be many challenges, difficulties, and we may not be perfect. That's okay. That's okay. Don't be hard on yourself. But the point is, we have to keep trying. We have to keep trying to do our duty. Don't give it up. There may be so many faults. It's okay. But you should try to do what you can.
Okay, Mataji. But anyway, I will take your word, Mataji. But then his practice is so much in a different way, whereby he sometimes does kind of like whatever anything he does against our consciousness, like for example, like black magic and prayers and all kind of like hanky panky things, Mataji. I don't know how to explain to you, which is like very frightening to me. So what I do, I normally keep away, and now he even left the house, Mataji. So I won't be able to serve him anymore. So in a way, I feel I'm blessed because I don't have any more disturbance. So I'm very free, Mataji. I have 3 kids. Yeah.
Right. I don't know the whole situation, but it is not easy to raise kids on our own too. So anyway, if there is any chance of reconciliation, you should always try to bring him back, because the Supreme Lord has given us our husband. That is our duty, to serve him. Keep praying, and we should try to give them as much prasadam as possible. And we ourselves have taken to Kṛṣṇa consciousness only recently, even in this lifetime. Everybody has a conditioning and a baggage, and when Kṛṣṇa can wait for us for eternity to literally turn to him, why can't we wait? Why can't we give a chance to others? So by your prayers, by your sincere sadhana, he may come back, and he may even be given a chance to do bhakti. But keep praying. As a dutiful wife, you do what you can in your given situation.
Okay, thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Wonderful class.
Thank you so much.
Okay, since there's no more questions, thank you, Great Shama Mataji, for giving us such a wonderful and enlightening lecture. Thank you for all the participants too for your time and cooperation. With that, we have come to an end to our session today. Hoping to get Shama Mataji's and all your association again for similar session in the nearest time. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo. Hare Krishna.